Hello everyone and welcome back to the Atheist channel, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about child indoctrination. This will be part 1 of a new series that I'm creating, looking at all the child indoctrination techniques of Jehovah's Witnesses. But before I begin, a shout out to my subscribers. Thank you once again for your support, and if you have not subscribed, then please click the bell to be notified of all my new releases. I now have a growing community on Discord server, so please find the link in my channel description or in the description of this video. Also, I would like to announce that I have just started a new Patreon page for anyone who would like to support my content creation. It would mean a lot to me if you did decide to help out, so please have a look at that, and as my Patreon grows there will be bigger and better rewards added to the tiers. There is a link to that on my channel description as well, and also there'll be a link in the description of this video after you subscribe. Again, a big thank you to everyone who supports my content. So I want to talk today about child indoctrination and the dangers that this practice causes for the minds of children through to adulthood. I will be including footage from videos of Jehovah's Witnesses in this talk and the other talks to follow about indoctrination. Now obviously it goes without saying that almost every religion deals in child indoctrination, but for the purpose of my channel and this video series I will be looking at it from the angle of Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, as I have mentioned in previous videos, the numbers of new Jehovah's Witnesses each year is only slightly higher than the population growth of the human race. So one could argue that child indoctrination is the major factor in the growth of Jehovah's Witnesses organisation. And when you look over jw.org and the material provided there, it becomes very clear that they put a lot of time and a lot of effort into quote unquote teaching the young ones. In fact, there is an entire series of books like Questions That Young Ones Ask and video series that are all dedicated to this practice of child indoctrination. And anyone who grew up in the organisation like myself will probably remember the gruelling schedule of study, study, study. So much study, so much Bible study that there was not enough time to finish even your schoolwork, and no time at all for childish fun. I for one know that I completely wasted my entire childhood eating up that indoctrination. But some may ask, why do you hate indoctrination so much? What is wrong with teaching children the beliefs of the parents? And these are good questions. On face value it might seem the right and logical thing to do. After all, religion does teach, well today it teaches the rights and wrongs in life. And these are the questions that I hope to answer in this video. So before I go any further, I would like to lay down my argument, the premises and the conclusion. Premise 1. Children have malleable minds, soaking up any and all information provided to them, whether that information is good or bad. Premise 2. Children are innocent. Premise 3. Children view adults as having authority and will take all information that they are given from that authority figure as being correct. Premise 4. Things we are taught as children form strong neural connections that we as adults then connect to all other thoughts and feelings we have throughout our lives. Premise 5. Child indoctrination uses this setup to force certain decisions out of children that in any other area of life would be viewed as decisions only an adult could make. The conclusion: therefore child indoctrination is to abuse a child's innocence and critical learning faculties, to imprint a set of thought codes that will drastically impact any future decisions that the person may or will make, taking away that child's free will in so doing, and impacting in a possibly negative way throughout the child's life, well into adulthood. Now, I would like to point out, I'm not by any means against education. Children do need to be taught the basics needed to survive as adults. They need to be taught how to count and how to write, the right and wrongs in life, i.e. the laws of the land. They need to be taught how to be nice and kind to others. But there is the secular schooling system that aims to teach all of these things and does a much better job at teaching those things, in my opinion. We do not need religion to teach us morality, especially if that morality is tainted with religious doctrine and fallacies. Now, also imagine this analogy. Bob and Mary have a child. They decorate the house and the child's room with political posters. They read the political manifesto of their political party to that child every night. They teach the ideology of that political party in daily and weekly study programs. When the kid is ready for school, they send their child to a political training school. They forbid their child from having friends who are not of that political party and that ideology. They are only allowed to read, watch, listen and browse materials made by that political party. Then they are told that that child is told that they have a choice. They can either pledge allegiance to that political party, or they will be shunned by everyone they are close to. And when that child most likely pledges themselves out of fear to that political party, they are told that they have to follow all the strict rules to the letter for the rest of their lives, or they will lose everything. They are also told, if they ever even doubt or question that political party and its leaders, they will again lose everything that they have ever had in their entire lives. Now, I ask all of you watching, would that be okay? Would that be a good life for Bob and Mary to provide for their child? Well, I hope the majority of you agree with me. That would be an horrendous upbringing for that child. And society on a whole is against that style of political upbringing. Many people view it as being wrong. The majority of people, in fact, view it as being wrong. But I ask, if we switch out the word political for religious, doesn't that upbringing sound very familiar to how Jehovah's Witnesses and other religions bring up their children? So this is why I am confident that it should be viewed as wrong for religions to use child indoctrination, as only religions have the freedom of child indoctrination. All other ideologies are not allowed to indoctrinate children in such a way. And then taking it deeper, in the analogy that I have gave, let's say that there are two families that have done this type of indoctrination. The first being Bob and Mary that we've already discussed, and second Harry and Phyllis. Let's say Bob and Mary's political party is of liberal ideology, and Harry and Phyllis's political party is of fascist ideology. Would the fact that Bob and Mary have taught a liberal ideology to their child make their act of political indoctrination any more right? Because they could say, well, we could have done it worse. We could have been like Harry and Phyllis and taught them a fascist ideology. At least we taught them liberal ideas. Well, no, that would still have been child indoctrination to a particular ideology, and it would still have been wrong. Now, I argue that Jehovah's Witnesses and some other dangerous cult religions are much closer to a fascist ideology than they are to the liberal, in the things that they teach, in the doctrine that they teach. So that makes this act of child indoctrination even more wrong by a group which is very highly controlling of all of its members. In the rest of this video and the videos to follow in the series, I will be showing clips from different jw.org videos showing the different areas in which Jehovah's Witnesses give importance to child indoctrination. First, family worship, and second, the importance given to Bible education over secular education. I will be covering these two first points in this video, then more points in future videos. So let's start with part 1, family worship.
When family worship arrangement was introduced, it became part of our service at Jehovah. We never miss a congregation meeting, so why should we miss the family worship?
Whether I'm tired or not, the consistency of having family worship is very important.
It really requires discipline, because sometimes there's things that we want to do and we just know, well, family study is what's most important, so we have to give that up.
My friends and the brothers in the congregation often call me to exercise or play sports. Since Family Worship Day doesn't change each week, it becomes easier to turn them down.
가족승배 있어서 이제 운동을 할 수 없다고 말하기가 좀 더 편했어요.
I've said to the girls, let's try to push each other, let's try to encourage each other, because it's not easy. I feel it has to start with me making that time and effort to leave work on time in order to be able to honor our family worship.
I became confident that this can really be successful.
I think the most important is the love we have for Jehovah. That keeps us going. I think that's our motivation.
We are determined to teach her as much as we possibly can and that she'll possibly understand, so that the truth will mean everything to her too.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
So the first part of this video on family worship is designed to express to all Jehovah's Witnesses the extreme importance that they should assign to family worship, making it as important or even more important than attending the weekly meetings. As one witness in the clip said, it really requires discipline, because sometimes there are things that you really want to do, and we just know that family study is what is most important. So we just have to give those things up. We can also start to see the hidden importance of this arrangement. See, at the weekly meetings, the information conveyed there is not specific most of the time to child indoctrination. Although child indoctrination is carried out at the meetings, on a whole the teaching given there is more generalised, aimed at indoctrinating everyone and maintaining strict obedience to the organisation. This is why I have chose family worship to start off with, making my point on child indoctrination. The family worship arrangement, as we can start to see from this first clip, is on a whole designed with indoctrinating children. Also, what I found interesting is that at the end there, when the sister says, what I think keeps us going is the love that we have for Jehovah. I found that interesting because nothing that is included in these propaganda videos is there by mistake. And the message of what she says is very powerful in the mind of a witness. It's basically saying that if you do not assign the right level of importance to family worship, then you do not have the right level of love towards Jehovah. It's almost like emotional blackmail, which is a tactic that I see time and time again in Jehovah's Witness propaganda videos.
We're a family, and things pop up. Something can come up unexpectedly. So when we need to cover all the angles.
We make it relaxing. The children look forward to getting cake or fruit or something else, so that it doesn't get strict and rigid.
We have to know when to be flexible.
Når man har børn,
When you have children, we feel that you have to make small, short sessions so that they can concentrate on the subject being discussed.
så at de hele tiden kan holde sig opmærksom på det emne.
As they got older, we had to change the methods.
At times we invite brothers in our congregation.
We might get the kids to organise some questions so they can interview the brother or sister that's coming over, especially if they're new in the congregation.
So sometimes family worship might be about issues that our family is facing. Sometimes it might be about things in the ministry that we want to try and accomplish. Sometimes it might be about games. So we've stretched out all over the floor and done all sorts of wonderful things for family worship because it keeps people engaged.
It's all about asking the family, what do they like to talk about? If a family's involved, it is a family worship. Rather than dad or myself setting out the agenda for family worship, well then it'll be a dad's family worship, not the whole family. But if we get the feedback from the whole family, from everyone gets to put in ideas, then we just plan that accordingly.
The reality of what we need now for relevance is we need to make sure that they're grounded in their faith and belief.
At every family study, we always try to focus on the kids' spiritual goals.
Once a kid at school came and asked me if I could play for the football team. And I thought it was a good idea, so I went to Dad and asked him. And then he said, why don't we try something called role reversals? I would play the dad, he would play the son.
In my case, the biggest pressure I have to face is dating in school, and family worship helps me a lot.
Instead of allowing my problems and negative emotions to fester within me, I share these feelings with my family during family worship. Mom was very understanding, and she made an effort to come up with themes during family worship to address those issues.
We decided to make a scroll out of the book of Isaiah. It really helps me to realize that Jehovah's organization makes it easier for us to find the scriptures that we're looking for and not to make it so complicated like in Jesus' days.
But for me, the best thing is to have an opportunity to express myself.
It's good sometimes to break it up a bit so it's not always like Dad talking.
So following on from the points that I've already made, the whole idea of this family study is the children. As one brother puts it in the clip, the importance of relevance is to make sure that children are grounded in their faith and their belief. And as I pointed out in my opening statements, this is the danger proposed by child indoctrination. The whole idea is to get to the minds of young people before they have fully developed the logical and reasoning centres of the brain. This means that the ideas of faith and belief will have formed earlier neural connections than the ability to reason has. That is a very dangerous, as that could mean that that particular child will never be able to fully reason between what is true and what is false, as their faith and their belief structures will always take precedence. But what we can also see from this clip is how child indoctrination begins to change fundamental parts of the child's life, fundamental parts of the child's thinking. For example, we saw 2 instances there of boys wanting to play football with their friends. But they had already understood that doing so would not please Jehovah, and worship had to come first. And then there was the example of the young sister who had urges to date and see boys at school. But family worship was helping her to understand that that would be wrong and that she needed to refrain. These might seem like small moral issues, but given that these family worship meetings for a family are a weekly or bi-weekly thing and can extend for periods of sometimes a couple of decades, that's a lot of reinforcement to the idea of the importance given to faith over all other things. That's also a lot of neural connections that need to be severed if the child ever decides to think for themselves and wake up from this cult.
When I see how happy all the family members are after our family worship, I would silently thank Jehovah for helping me fulfill my responsibility as the head of the household.
Our children have learned to be more outgoing and participate more in the meetings.
It was Jehovah's way of telling me, you are not alone. You have these precious children with you. It's just that I wasn't paying enough attention to them.
Open with prayer, and then right after that, it's just amazing. It's really fun. So getting there is the hard part, but once we get into it, that's when it starts. That's when it starts having fun.
The family worship has been protecting my family, and it has been preparing my family for the difficulties we face.
We actually are more open with each other now than we ever were before, and we can discuss just about anything and everything, which is actually good.
Family worship made me realize how happy I am to have Jehovah as my God, and that I have many reasons to be happy.
It feels like I can just let go of what was making me sad, what was, making me a bit angry, and I can just be like, it's fine, because I know everything will be okay, and Jehovah's blessed our evening.
As for me, I learned about the truth through family worship.
I think it encourages me to keep being a witness and not turn aside from the truth. It also helps me understand what the meetings are about, so I can pay attention, and it helps me get a comment.
Through his prayers, we are able to see that Dad's relationship with Jehovah is really close, and this encourages me to also enjoy a close relationship with Jehovah.
So family worship has taught me to preach boldly about the truth, even at school.
I was able to cut down association with worldly friends thanks to family worship.
I think for me it must be each other's company. That's a highlight of family worship for me.
Now, can you imagine if Daddy said, you know what? On Mondays, we're not going to do our family worship anymore. How would you feel about that?
Sad.
Why would you feel sad about that?
Because I want to do it.
Well, tell me why you want to do it.
So I can color the picture and find the missing pictures and read the Bible.
Right. What do you think? You think Jehovah's happy when you do things like that?
Family worship is just so important.
Well, one boy there summed up my point exactly. He said, I think it encourages me to keep being a witness and to not run aside from the truth. And that really is the only reason why Jehovah's Witnesses, the organisation of Jehovah's Witnesses that is, pushes family worship so much. All of these points are about increasing happiness and strengthening the family. They're all secondary. All that the organisation really cares about is numbers, making sure that the organisation continues to grow. The figures speak for themselves. As I mentioned earlier, Jehovah's Witnesses don't make a lot of new witnesses from preaching. In fact, some of the numbers show that they are rapidly declining in baptisms from formerly non-religious people. So child indoctrination is now more than ever their key objective, because without it the members would decline from generation to generation. So they would continue, so they cannot allow children to grow up being able to make their own choices. And so now we move on to the next part, to do with Bible education over secular education. And we again will see the importance that the organisation puts on young people not making their own decisions, but only doing what the organisation wants, what the organisation needs them to do.
Back in 2005,
The faithful slave provided counsel regarding higher education in the October 1st, 2005 issue of the Watchtower, pages 26 through 31. The article was entitled, "Parents, What Future Do You Want for Your Children?" The cover of the very next issue, October 15th, 2005, asked the question, what is the best education? However, our goal now is to focus on and intensify our promotion of the pursuit of divine education. If parents and young ones are motivated to avidly pursue divine education, the quest for higher secular education becomes less and less of an issue.
Well, this particular talk given by Anthony Morris here was particularly disturbing to me. He gives some very troubling analogies and disturbing insights within it. Now, for the purpose of my video, I've only taken a few clips from this talk. I could have used the full video, but that would have warranted a full-length rebuttal on it. If you would like me to do a full-length rebuttal on this particular talk, then please leave a comment and I will consider that. Thank you. So let's get into this. Did you notice the names of the articles referenced here? Parents, what future do you want for your children? And what is the best education? Then he points out that the goal of Jehovah's Witnesses is to promote divine education as the best education. And if you pursue divine education, then secular education is less and less of an issue. Now, before I get into showing the other clips from this video, I would like to give my thoughts on this first part. Now, as I have mentioned before on this channel, I'm not a parent. But having said that, I have been a child, obviously, and have watched many good and bad parenting techniques throughout my life. And it strikes me that if you really care for your children, then maybe you should not be asking what future you want for your child to have. Maybe you should ask, what future does my child want to have? And if you ask that question, then you're not going to teach your children how to do what will make you happy, or what will make God happy, or make the governing body happy. You're going to teach your children the ways in which they can pursue their own goals in life, pursue what will make them happy. And isn't that the best education? We only get one life that we know of. What is so good about spending that life always worrying if the other person is happy, if God is happy, when deep down you yourself might be miserable and you don't even know it till it's too late? Obviously, teach your children how not to hurt other people and how to live peacefully with others. But really, each person needs to figure out themselves what they want for their lives. So I find this child indoctrination of this group very disturbing. They do not care about an individual's personal happiness. They teach happiness of the group and unification to the point of thought, behavioural and emotional control. Turning children from free individual spirits into automatons, drones, slaves working for the organisation and only living for the freedom of that organisation. It is a sad, awful situation for anyone to be in.
It does not change the fact that all too often our young people have met with spiritual disaster, especially after leaving home and living on a university campus. So parents and children, you need to have a goal and you need to have a plan. If you're missing either one, Satan will provide it for you. Young people, Ask yourself, why am I considering additional education? Is it because I'm pursuing a specific skill or trade to support my service to Jehovah? Or have I been pressured by the system into believing that higher education will somehow make me a more respected person or lead me to a better life? Let me review the scriptural basis for our previous published concerns about higher education. As an example, 1 Corinthians 15:33 says, "Bad associations spoil useful habits." While it is true that the ancient city of Corinth was known for its immoral lifestyle, what was the Apostle Paul primarily concerned about when he penned those words? In verse 12 of the same chapter, he made clear that his comment about bad associations had to do with what the other persons believed. It was a doctrinal issue. If we are in continued association with those who do not believe the same, it can erode our thinking and convictions. Some have felt that spending time with non-believers in a university setting is no different than working secularly with those who do not share our beliefs. And in fact, bad associations in the workplace can be a real danger. However, it is one thing to work on a job with others and quite another matter to immerse oneself in an institution of learning. In Romans 12:2, Paul said to stop being molded by this system of things, but be transformed by making your mind over. We are to be careful that this system does not mold or shape our thinking. The verse said to make over your minds, not hand over your minds. Higher learning can easily influence thinking and attitudes. Elders in congregations that are in close proximity to universities are well aware of the repeated scenario of parents coming to the Kingdom Hall with a child that they're dropping off to attend the nearby university. Sadly, often in a few weeks or months, the child begins missing meetings. And not too long into the school year, he totally disappears. Then the parents are upset with the local body of elders for not shepherding their child. My question is, who dropped them off at the university? So where does the responsibility really lie? When we make a decision, we must realistically also accept the consequences. Turn with me to 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 20. This was written by Paul as an illustration for Timothy to consider. Now, it makes sense that the large house commented on refers to the congregation. And the utensils of varying value would be like individual members of the congregation. 2 Timothy 2, and verses 20 through 22. Now, in a large house, there are utensils not only of gold and silver, but also of wood and earthenware, and some for an honorable use, but others for a use lacking honor. So if anyone keeps clear of or doesn't associate with these ones, he'll be an instrument for an honorable use, sanctified, useful to his owner, Jehovah God, prepared for every good work. So flee from youthful desires, but pursue righteousness, faith, love, peace, along with those who call on the Lord out of a clean heart. If we should be that careful about our association inside the congregation, the application is even more appropriate when it comes to institutions of secular learning. I have long said, the better the university, the greater the danger. The most intelligent and eloquent professors will be trying to reshape the thinking of your child, and their influence can be tremendous.
Bad associations spoil useful habits. If I had a penny for every time I heard that scripture, I wouldn't need to work in this world. But that scripture is so important to this idea of child indoctrination. If you want to win the minds of a group of people and have them only believe what you want them to believe, and only do what you tell them to do, and want them to do what you want them to do because they think they actually chose to do what you want them to do, then you absolutely cannot risk them coming into contact with any other philosophy other than the one that you have set out for them. This is why the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses hate the idea of secular education and association with anyone that is not one of Jehovah's Witnesses. And that philosophy really shows how weak this doctrine of Jehovah's Witnesses really is. As Anthony says here, it's to do with what the other people believe. We cannot allow ourselves to come into contact with other beliefs, as those associations can and will erode our thinking and our convictions. If your idea of what is true is so weak that even hearing of other beliefs has you doubting the truth of your own belief, then surely you have to ask yourself, is what I believe actually true? What is the evidence to back up what I believe? And if the evidence is not there, is there any reason for me to continue believing what I do? How did I come to believe this falsehood as true? Was I falsely indoctrinated into this belief? And do I need to go back to the basics and reorder what I was taught as a child so that I can start to think logically and reason my way to actual truth? And if you find yourself asking those kinds of questions, guess what? You're lucky, because for the first time in your life, you actually have a true opportunity to make your mind over. The opportunity to have freedom to come to your own conclusions in life. The opportunity to wake up from a nightmare you never realised you were in. And the feeling you have of doing that, well, that's the greatest feeling you can ever have in life. So if you are a witness watching this, maybe you've had doubts already, and that's why you're watching. Please remember what Anthony has said in this clip. Make over your mind. Do not hand over your mind. If you grew up in the organisation, you, through no fault of your own, but because of child indoctrination, you handed over your mind, your thoughts and your feelings to this organisation led by this bloated old fool and the rest of his bloated old cronies. Please take this chance and wake up. Think for yourself and give the finger to this child indoctrinating ideology. Ask yourself, do you want to continue being an owned utensil in a house led by the very same people who indoctrinated you and controlled you for so many years?
Along with the reasoning in Romans chapter 14, verses 10 through 12. But why do you judge your brother? Or why do you also look down on your brother? And here's a valid point. For he will stand before the judgment seat of God. For it is written, as surely as I live, says Jehovah, to me every knee will bend, and every tongue will make open acknowledgement to God. Here, Jehovah guarantees that one day, every person on earth will be a true worshiper of him. Will you be there? Will your son or daughter be among those alive at that time? Do your personal decisions matter? Yes. Look at verse 12. So then, each of us will render an account for himself to God. Yes, we all will have to answer to Jehovah for the decisions we make today. May we all decide to play it safe before our God. Think of all the opportunities there are now to enjoy divine education, congregation meetings, family worship, assemblies and conventions, the jw.org website, and the station you're watching right now. But in addition to all of that, the curriculum for the Pioneer Service School has been revised and is getting superb reviews by those attending. Then there's the new curriculum for the School for Kingdom Evangelizers that bolsters and trains students for a career in a variety of theocratic privileges. In addition to promoting divine education, what secular skills will we be promoting? Skills that'll be useful to God's organization now and after.
So now the final part of my point on child indoctrination for this part 1 of my video series, and that is the reward and punishment part of it. This is something that I heard on the Atheist experience first, and it's called God the Mob Boss theory, and it is shown in this example brilliantly. In the movie The Godfather, the Don makes the movie studio an offer they cannot refuse. Either they give his grandson a part in the movie, or he will not prevent bad things from happening to them. We can see here that the governing body are saying the same about Jehovah. Do as I ask, or I will not prevent you from receiving my wrath. So wouldn't we all want to be in a position to please Jehovah and gain everlasting life instead of being dead forever? This again is a really key feature to child indoctrination, as it is an offer that a child cannot refuse. Kids on a whole, and all of us really, want to please and do good, and thus receive reward and prevent punishment. And for normal life, that reward is having freedom, making decisions, and living happily. But for Jehovah's Witnesses, they add in this unprovable reward system, teaching that this fallacy is actually real. We must live our lives a certain way, hoping that it pays off and we receive that reward. Very much like the movie studio in The Godfather, that had no way of knowing whether giving that movie role to the Don's godson would actually prevent these bad things from happening. There is no evidence that this reward exists or is even probable. And if it doesn't exist, then Jehovah's Witnesses will have wasted their lives in pursuit of that reward. But as they will be dead, will not even know that they didn't receive the reward. Anyway, that wraps up the points for this video that I wanted to make. I'm going to play a music video to do with the family worship that was at the end of the family worship video that I took the clips from. And then I'm going to give my conclusion for this part 1 of my series on child indoctrination.
Caught up in circles, I don't know which way to turn. My heart moves and my head full. Too late, I've fallen in love. To do what's right is a constant fight. Don't wanna let my heart decide. I want God's word to be my guide. It's so hard to break free. This desperate heart inside of me makes wrong feel right and a right feel wrong. But Jehovah makes me strong. He says, know that I love you. I don't want to lose you. Trust in me in all you do. I'll be here to help you.
But are you making the right sacrifices?
Our life is shaped by the choice we make. We have to realize what's at stake.
So as I pointed out in the beginning with my argument, is that child indoctrination is bad. It's a type of child abuse in which the organisation of Jehovah's Witnesses and extension other religions forcefully teach and thus take control of the mental faculties of the mind of a child, imprinting upon that child the thoughts and feelings of that group, overriding normal thought and personality developments of that child, impeding the growth of logic and reasoning, thus irreparably damaging that child in the process. We have seen how child indoctrination happens at home, in the family setting, and at the meetings. Also, we have seen how the organisation has in-depth hatred of secular education, thus showing the control aspects and weaknesses of the doctrine and ideology of Jehovah's Witnesses. Later in this series, I will be showing more areas of child indoctrination and doing rebuttals to some of the videos showing child indoctrination in progress on the jw.org website, followed by interviews with ex-Jehovah's Witnesses discussing the damage and difficulties caused by this inhumane practice, and how to get past the damage caused and regain your own free will and mental faculties. So thank you very much for watching. Please like, share and subscribe. And as always, remember, ignorance is never bliss.